post survey and any questions that you might have. All right. So what we're going to do is see what your thoughts are on groceries. So if you have a phone available and you're on your laptop or computer or anything like that, you can scan this QR code and it'll bring you to a link. And this link, what we're going to do is create a word cloud. And once you get to this link, you might be asked to enter a code. The code will be right here for everyone. And let me see, I could also type that in the chat box for you as well. But yeah, so get to that link. And if not, if that link is unavailable, through the QR code, we're going to also send it in the chat box. Whenever, let me see. Emily, do we have that available?
Absolutely. Let me grab it for you real quick. It's coming in the chat box in about.
All right, there we go. And then we got the code there twice in case you need it. So let's go ahead and jump to that. So you could have that in the chat box. And as that's going on, I'm going to pull up the word cloud so we can all see it together. Okay, great. Awesome. Great, I see the words popping in. I always like to do this at the beginning of the presentation so we can see what other people are thinking about when they think of grocery shopping. And as we can see, there's food. Yep, we always think about food. We might associate grocery shopping with food or money because we have to have money in order to grocery shop, right? It could be seen as expensive or time consuming for sure. Take time out of your day to go and actually set the time aside to go grocery shopping, right? Let's see, what else do we have? Snacks. List, I like that one. The list, yeah. It's great to have a list when you go grocery shopping. You're gonna, I talk about this a little later on, but you're gonna eliminate any sort of unnecessary purchases if you have a list. That's great. Oh, bags, cool. Healthy deals, yeah. Great. Fun. Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thank you all for participating in that. It's always fun to see what other people have to think or what other words people think when they associate grocery shopping. So that's always fun to see. Thank you. And we'll go ahead and jump back to the next one or jump into the next slide. Cool. So now we're going to talk about budgeting. Building a game plan when you're budgeting helps to just be more efficient with your money and your time at the grocery store when you are grocery shopping. So one of the first steps that I always do is every time I go grocery shopping, we'll want to keep our receipts. This is important for a few reasons. It helps us keep track of where our money is going. And not only that, but it helps us see visually what items are we purchasing on a regular basis, what items are we maybe purchasing every now and then, and anything in between there, right? So always keep our receipts. And from our receipts, as I mentioned, those items that we continue to buy on a regular basis, I consider those base groceries since they are the groceries that we tend to purchase most often. For me, it's anything like broccoli. I get a lot of tofu, like cabbage, stuff like that. Those are my groceries that I get probably every week at least. So those are more my base grocery items. Things that are not necessarily base items, maybe those little treats that I get every now and then, just kind of as a reward, I guess, maybe chips or candy, something like that. And then with the receipts and the base groceries, we kind of want to repeat that process a few times just so we get an average of what we might be spending, what grocery items we are getting. And when we repeat it a few times, we can see patterns that evolve. And with those patterns, we can create a more effective plan when we are budgeting for future grocery trips. And this in turn helps with figuring out the cost, right? So if we know how much our base groceries cost on a regular week or a regular month, then this will help us to be able to budget for those foods next time we go grocery shopping that week or month. Does that all make sense to everyone? If it does, just give a little Zoom reaction, and that is awesome. Yeah, so this is just a simple game plan to tackle budgeting. If you need just a kickstart or a reminder, this is always a great slide of information to have. So the next step is kind of meal planning and meal tips. Just like a little side note, did you know that if you're shopping when you're hungry, it increases the money that you're actually spending and encourages unhealthy food choices? And in the long run, that could be taxing on not only your wallet and your budget, but also on your health in the long run. So before we jump to the next slide, I just wanted to see if anyone has any secret meal planning tips that they use. If you do, go ahead and type those in the chat box so you can maybe inspire someone else today. And as I continue with the next slide, feel free to keep typing those in, and you might inspire someone with your tip. All right, so meal planning before you shop. So this is what we do before we actually go into the grocery store. We want to first look at recipes. So what recipes do you maybe eat a lot of? Do you enjoy eating? Maybe a new recipe that you want to try? Just get all those recipes written down or printed out or saved as a screenshot on your phone, whatever that might look like. And you're going to write those down so you know exactly what items you're going to put on the next step, which is creating your list. So this list is going to have all those items that you need or that you want. So it's easier to go through the grocery store, pick up those items and call it good. There's no distractions because you know exactly what you want, you know what you need. And if you do the last steps with the budgeting, you should know how much it's going to be priced at as well. And then the next step before we go shopping is to just make sure we don't make any unnecessary purchases. And what this means is to just go through your refrigerator, go through your freezer, go through your cabinets, anywhere that you have food, and just see what foods you already have. So you don't have to, or so you don't accidentally buy double of that, right? So you have too much of it, maybe one of them goes bad. And then in the long run, you're just basically throwing money away, especially if you're going to have to throw that food away. So that just helps kind of keep costs down of food and keeps you from throwing away food. All right. So this is something also that you could use as a before you go grocery shopping is just different food resources. So with these different food resources, we have a few different ones that we can choose from. So if you're in the local area, if you're in Chico, the Hungry Wildcat Food Pantry is open for all students, staff, and faculty who need a little bit of supplemental food. That's a great place to go. Currently, they're open Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 12:30, or by appointment if you do need to do that. You can also follow them on their Instagram if you want up-to-date information. But they're a great food resource to go to before you actually hit the grocery store, because then you can get those staple goods, maybe some rice, some beans, so you don't have to actually purchase those when you go to the store. It might save a little bit of money, but in the long run, that does add up, right? So another one is called Food Finder US. And then the second one on the right with the little QR code, that one is Feeding America. So both of these are great resources as well. These will help you if you're not in the local area. So the Wildcat Food Pantry isn't available. You can check out these websites. The Food Finder helps you find different pantries in your area. And then Feeding America helps you find different food banks. And I believe, yeah, you can scan these QR codes if you want. And then the links are below there if you want to look those up. And then we have those also in the chat box for you. Cool. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, so once we're in a pantry such as the food pantry, we want to get the most out of that experience and the different foods that are available, right? So if you go into the pantry, maybe there's a produce in there or a few different produce that there is just, you have no idea what it is, right? It's so bizarre. Maybe it's a different kind of green or maybe a different fruit that you've never seen before. This is my thinking, whenever you see something that's you're not familiar with, you could ask someone about it, get more information, or just take it home and try it for yourself. Maybe do your own research and see how it goes. Because chances are, if it is in the pantry, it's going to be something that's fresh, local, delicious, nutritious, and all the above. So always try out unfamiliar produce. The second one is looking at those canned and packaged goods that I did mention before. Those are goods like those rices and beans, maybe like pasta sauces, stuff like that, or even pasta. Always choose those at the pantry because they do tend to have a longer stable shelf life. So you could save those in your pantry for a while, use those later on, and save money at the grocery store. And with regards to those canned and packaged goods, we just kind of want to remember to keep it on the lower end of sodium and sugar if possible. I know this could be hard, especially if it's at a pantry where the choices might not be as wide as the grocery store. But if there is the choice between maybe a salt, like a processed food that has a lot of sodium compared to an unprocessed one, always choose the one with the lower sodium or the lower sugar if possible. It's just going to be better for your health in the long run. So for sodium, we want to have around no more than 2,000 milligrams. And just to put that into perspective, I think a bag of like chips has around maybe 150 to 200 per bag of chips. And then for sugar, we want no more than 50 grams of sugar. And just to put that into perspective, it's about 30 to 40 grams of sugar per a bottle of soda. So one bottle of soda is basically all of your sugar for the day. Cool. And I think that's all for this one. Let's go ahead to the next one. So this is another great food resource before you actually hit the grocery store still, is the farmer's market. So the farmer's market, either if you are in Chico or if you're not in Chico, many of them in California participate in something called Market Match, which just helps you get more groceries for your money if you have EBT. So you can swipe your EBT card and receive extra money towards fresh produce from the farmer's market up to, I think, $10. I think it's $10 in Chico as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's also $10 in Chico. Some places it could be 15. It just depends where you are at. And let's see. Yeah, so there's a Saturday farmers market, and then there's a Wednesday's farmers market that does accept these different that does accept the market match. So you get extra money for your produce. And then in the chat box, there is a link to find market matches near you if you are not in Chico. And this is just a great way to get some extra money before you actually hit the grocery store, get some fresh produce, and keep those expenses down before you go into the grocery store. All right. So in the middle, I want to kind of break the information up by just doing a little short quiz. I think it's only like 5 questions, but it's always fun to do something like this as well. The link will be in the chat box, and then you can scan the QR code if you wish to do it that way. And I will pull up the screen so everyone can see it as well. Okay. All right, here we are. I like this little menti.com. They always have like fun little emoji thingies, so that's great. All right. I'll give it just a few more seconds for anyone who still wants to log on. And then I think if I get started, you can still log on, so no worries there. All right, let's see what we got. Okay, here we go. So you get more points if you answer faster. Budgeting. Next time I shop, I should do all except blank to help me budget. Keep grocery receipts, add up how much regularly purchased items cost, list regularly purchased items, throw away receipts. Yeah. Awesome. Let's go to the next one. Question 2. Oh, you can make food from the pantry healthier by rinsing can. Oh, I didn't talk about that. I'm so sorry. But rinsing canned foods, adding fresh fruit or yogurt to breakfast cereal using half of a flavor packet, or adding water or adding water to fruit juice. I didn't talk about this, but I would love to see what everyone thinks on this one. So sorry I failed to mention this one. So it's all of them. Awesome. Yeah. So rinsing canned foods could get some of the sodium that's off of that food, such as beans. You could add fresh fruit and maybe even granola to yogurt and breakfast cereal to just add some variety and add some nutrients. And then using only half of that flavor packet still gives you the flavor, but it does use a lot less sodium. And then adding water to fruit juices just kind of decreases the amount of sugar that's in there. Cool. Great. Y'all are getting it. Cool. Okay. True or false? You can get extra money for produce when you use EBT at the farmer's market. True. Yes. So if you have EBT, check out the farmer's market for some amazing fresh produce. All right, almost done. True or false? A food pantry can provide you with some essential food items. Oh, I guess I skipped it on accident, but the answer is true. We can definitely get some essential food items from the pantry. Cool. All right, true or false? It is important to make a list of groceries you need before shopping. True or false? It is true. Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Cool. And I think there's like a leaderboard on this one too. So let's see who it is. Wow, very close. It looks like Victoria wins as the fastest. The donut. That's awesome. Cool. Congratulations. Let's go ahead and get back to this. Awesome. Yeah, thank you all for doing that. It's always great to kind of break it up. So has anyone heard of buying in bulk before, or has anyone bought in bulk before? Just a quick Zoom reaction or a hand wave or anything like that? Yeah, a few of you. Awesome. Yeah, buying in bulk is a great way to save money. I know Winco has like those bulk bins, and you can just stock up on those essential dry goods and be able to basically save money that way in the long run, right? Because you're not actually paying for the packaging, which a lot of times other goods you are paying for some of the packaging. So we can watch some of this. I don't think I'm going to watch the whole thing because let me see. I think we want to start it right here. Okay.
And some of the benefits to buying in bulk. Also, a little tiny bit about bulk bin etiquette, which is very important. There are so many items to buy in the bulk bin. In fact, in this particular Whole Foods bulk bin, there's over 342 items. That is a lot of items to choose from.
Some of our favorite items to get in the bulk bin are beans and grains, spices, and nuts.
Absolutely. There's so many different things that you can buy in the bulk bin, such as dried mushrooms, different kinds of cereal, flour, all that stuff. But those are really our favorites.
Yeah, and when you're looking to buy something and you're looking at the quantity you want, know that that little scoop that's in there is just 1 cup. So when you're going to look at your recipe and comparing, that's a really good gauge.
One of our favorite benefits to buying in the bulk bin is that there's a cost savings. You're just buying the little amount you need or the larger amount you need for a very particular recipe.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of environmental benefits to shopping in bulk. You're saving on packaging, you're leading to less waste in the landfill, which is really great. And all the bags that you buy your nuts or grains or beans in are recyclable, or you can reuse them in some other way.
There are 4 main rules of etiquette when you're shopping in the bulk bin,
Like, don't stick your hands in the bin and try to get a little snack. That's not the legit way to do it. We'll show you what the legit way is.
Every customer gets one little sample, so you just take the scoop and put it in your hand.
The second piece of advice in rules of etiquette is don't swap the scoop. Keep the scoop in the same bin that you took it from because there's allergies that people have, so you don't want to get anyone sick.
The third rule is that you just want to label every single item with that PLU that everyone needs at checkout. It makes things a lot faster. The fourth and last rule is to just take your time in the bulk bin section. All of these bins are very full. And so
Okay, we are going to stop it right there. But I do love showing this video because even for myself, I've been using the bulk bin since I began shopping, which has been a while now. But I did not know some of these rules, such as like do not swap the spoon. Also that the scooper thing is about a cup. That's great to know. That's such an important thing, especially if you're trying to only get a certain amount. You can easily see that with the scoop. And just a note on the sample, it does depend on which bulk area you are in, depending on the store. Some of them will allow samples, some of them will not. Just look out for signs that say sample 1 per customer, something like that, or no samples allowed, just depending on the store. Don't want anyone to get kicked out of any store here for trying some bulk bin foods. So, okay. So now we are at the point where we're going to talk about comparing prices by weight. This is something important to keep in mind when we are purchasing different foods, because you can save a lot of money in the long run if you do utilize this method. So we call it price by weight because if we look on the side right here, I'll talk about the fancy label versus the generic label that's on the right side first. So we have peanut butter that's in 16 ounces versus 26 ounces. If we look at the price of the whole can or the whole bottle of peanut butter, it's $2.85. But if we look at the one for the generic, it's $4.39. So at first glance, you think, oh, the $2.89 or the $2.85 is going to be the cheaper deal, right? Because it is cheaper than $4.39. But if we look a little bit closer, and if we look at the price per pound, but the prices could vary per ounces, or it could say per fluid ounce, depending on if it's a liquid, but it could say something else besides pound. But for the fancy label, we see that it says $2.85 per 1 pound. But if we go to the generic brand, it's $2.71 per pound. So at first glance, as I mentioned, the top one, the fancy label, might look cheaper than the generic at $4. But if we look closer, in the long run, we will be saving more because per pound, it's a little bit cheaper. And you're getting a lot more if you look at the 26 ounces versus the 16. So that's a good tip to think about. And then it kind of mentions it right here, generic versus fancy. In my opinion, anything name brand would be the fancy label, because in the long run, or when you're buying those, you're actually paying for the name. So you pay a lot more for the Cheerios Cheerio brand versus if you're just getting like the store brand of a similar breakfast cereal that is virtually the same thing compared to something like Cheerios. And you are saving quite a bit of money, especially on these breakfast cereals. They could be quite pricey per box. So you could save anywhere between $1 to $2 probably for just getting the not name brand, either the store brand or a generic brand. So very good tip to think about. Okay, cool. So we're at the 1 mug omelet part of the presentation. I love this part. If you scan this QR code, you will be able to follow the link to this recipe. It will also be sent into the chat box, so then you can have it there. The recipe and ingredients and the instructions for it will be found at that link. And what we're going to do before I play the actual recipe demo that one of my colleagues has created, we're going to see what everyone thinks the difference between a homemade omelet versus a store-bought or restaurant. I put store-bought, but I guess in this case, it's a restaurant-bought omelet, right? So what do you think the difference in price would be? So the homemade versus the store-bought. In the chat box, let's go ahead and type in first how much you think the homemade omelet will be per one omelet. So everyone participate through the chat box. How much for 1 omelet? let's see, we have 60 cents, $1, 70 cents, 30 cents, a couple cents, 50 cents. Yeah, awesome. $1, 8 to 10, 50 cents, 30 cents. Okay, let's see what we got. Some of you are very close. So it's about 85 cents. I say about because it does depend on what vegetables you choose to throw in there. It could be a little more pricey depending on that vegetable that you choose. So yeah, that's great. It's super cheap, right? For just one. It is going to be a fairly small, it's a mug omelet, right? So it's not going to be like those big old ones that you might see, but definitely good value for what you're getting. And you could always get a bigger mug and make more if you choose to do that. Okay, so next we're going to do store-bought. How much do you think the store-bought will be, or restaurant-bought, I should say, sorry. The restaurant-bought you should, you would pay. Let's see what everyone thinks. We got $5, 8, 6, 8 to 10, 11, 10, 12, okay. 4 to 6, gotcha, okay. Let's see what we got. So it's about $3.59 per one. So what I did is I actually took a restaurant price for a child size omelet. And I did that because when I was looking at the approximate weight or approximate ingredients for each of those, it came out to be about the same. So comparing it to a child size omelet just made sense. So we did so it's basically a $3.60 omelet versus a 85-cent omelet. In the short term, it might not seem like that much, but in the long run, that will definitely add up for your budget, right? So you can budget for other foods in your grocery shopping trip. Okay, so what we're gonna do is actually play a video. I'll go ahead and pull that up. Okay. Here we go. And did this last time to me where I had to reload it, but I think it should be good.
Today, I will be showing you how to make this delicious one mug omelet. First things first, we need to wash our hands. Let's start by wetting our hands, then lathering with soap and scrubbing for at least 20 seconds. Rinse and then dry, and we are ready to get started. For this recipe, we will need one mug, one bowl, measuring spoons, and one fork. Great, now let's talk ingredients. This recipe calls for 1 egg, nonstick cooking spray, 2 tablespoons of low-fat milk or water, and we are ready to prep. Let's start by greasing the mug with cooking spray. And if you don't have cooking spray, feel free to use cooking oil or butter. Now let's start mixing together our ingredients. Grab a bowl we set aside and crack the egg and pour the egg inside of the bowl. Let's then follow that up by adding our 2 tablespoons of low-fat milk or water to the bowl. In need of some flavor? Add some salt and pepper to the mix. Let's start to mix our ingredients. Be sure to beat the egg. And if your omelet isn't looking as colorful as you'd like, go ahead and add some fresh veggies. I chose to add bell peppers. What will you put in your omelet? Our ingredients are mixed well and they are ready to be transferred to our mug. This recipe calls for 1 minute in the microwave, but every microwave is different, so be sure to pick an appropriate time that works for your specific microwave. Carefully remove the mug from the microwave. Eat your omelet right out of the mug or serve it on a plate like I did. And enjoy. Thanks for watching.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and go back to the presentation. Okay. Cool. So we went through this one. Yeah, so it's such an easy recipe. I like it because it's very customizable. If you have different vegetables that you want to throw in there, you can easily chop those up and throw them in there as well. And you can make it a full meal if you want to add a fruit or maybe a smoothie or something like that on the side. Very easy and very fast meal for on the go if you need to go or take it on the go, or if you just want to eat it at home. So very easy, cheap option too. Cool. So now we have one more recipe. It's the 3-can chili. In my opinion, this is probably one of the easiest and most delicious and fastest and cheapest recipe out there. It probably takes no more than 10 minutes from start to finish. And that's one of the things I love about it. And it's so easy. And yeah, let's just let's see. Let's get into it. Let's first do the same thing as we did last time and think about how much you think for one serving. I think this one's per cup. So how much for 1 cup of the homemade chili? How much does that cost? How much do you think that will cost? You can go ahead and type that in the chat box. And this is for the homemade. Okay, we have 5, 250, 1 to 2, 50 cents, 50 cents, 3, okay, 150. Great guesses. 4, okay. All right, let's go ahead and see what we have. So surprisingly, it's only 68 cents per 1 bowl. Very, very good deal, in my opinion. And I think with this recipe, it makes like 4 or 5 servings, if I remember. So you can either share it with your roommates, share it with your family, save it for leftovers for the next day or for the next your next dinner, something like that. Such a easy thing to do and have basically meals prepped for the future. Okay, so what about store bought or restaurant bought? How much do you think that would be? If you went out to like a sandwich shop or something like that and got about the same size chili bowl. Okay, so we have 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5. Okay, 10, 8. All right, 856. Okay. Let's see what we got. It's about 560 per bowl, give or take, depending on probably the restaurant that you choose to go to. But again, quite a bit difference, right? So about a $5 difference that in the long run, this will just save you a ton of money. Yeah, so always a great option to just cook it at home. You'll have leftovers, cheaper in the long run. If you want to, you can scan this QR code, as I mentioned earlier. It will take you to the recipe. So you can follow it there, has the ingredients and everything for you. And we do have another video that we will pull up right now. This one isn't as great. It's not as great as my colleague Jess, who made the other one, but it gets the point across. So let's go ahead and show this one as well. Oh, I might need to reload it again. Okay. All right, yeah, as you can see, it's so easy to just throw it in a bowl. And all you're gonna do is heat it on the stove. And it only takes anywhere between like 20 to 25 minutes, I think, if that. And yeah, once again, this one's also customizable, so you can easily add different vegetables in it if you want to. Maybe add a different protein source if you want to do that as well. Definitely, you can customize this to make it however you want to make your chili. So that is another great and easy, quick, cheap option for anyone out there who loves to eat chili. I know I love this recipe so much, so I live by that one. Okay, so let's talk about the grocery store layout real quick. What we're gonna do is go through each of these items, and I'm just gonna see, we're gonna have a few options. So each item is either gonna be found in the center of the store, in the very back of the store, or on the side of the store. All right. So either center aisles, back of the store, or the side of the store. So for the first one, the chips, what do we think by typing in the chat box where this one will be located? In the back of the store, the side of the store, or the center aisle of the store? Okay, we have a lot of centers. Great. Cool. Yep, it is in the center of the store. Awesome. Okay, what about the apple in the side, in the back, or in the center? The side. Yep, the side. Perfect. What about the bakery goods, the breads and stuff like that? Either on the side, in the center, or in the back. We got a mix between the side and the back, which it does depend on the actual layout of the store, but it could be the side or the back a lot of times. Yeah. A lot of times what they try to do is, this is what I've learned. If they can, they try to put it to the side, but also towards the front of the store. So you get that kind of fresh smell of bread. It kind of is relaxing and nice to smell that when you first walk in the store. And what it's meant to do is kind of desensitize you and make you make those purchases that you oftentimes wouldn't have, especially if you have a list. And it just kind of gets you in that mode of, this is relaxing kind of if you smell fresh baked bread. So that's a lot of times why they do that, is to get you into that happy kind of relaxed mode. Okay, this next one we have is like those frozen packaged foods. Do we want that, or do we find that in the center, in the back, or on the side? Center. Okay, yeah, we got a center. Could be in the back. I get, yeah, depending on the grocery store, it could. The center. A lot of times it is found in the center aisles, depending on the grocery store though. Yep, cool. Then the last we have the fresh cut meats. Are we going to find that in the center, in the back, or on the side? The back. Yep, a lot of times it's in the back. It could be on the side too. Once again, depending on the grocery store. But yeah, awesome. So this little activity is an introduction to the next slide, which is just going over the layout of the store. We oftentimes have the cashiers in the front, right? We could have like the bakery on the side, towards the front of towards the front or at the exits. As I mentioned, it kind of helps you, or they use it as a way to get you relaxed through the scent of fresh baked bread. And then once you're relaxed, you're more likely to make those purchases that you otherwise wouldn't. So it's kind of a tricky tactic, I guess, they use. And in the center aisles, we oftentimes have like those packaged foods such as peanut butter, and even like chips and stuff like that. But I put the center aisle right here with different foods that are definitely delicious, definitely healthy, and great choices if you are going through the center aisles, such as the natural peanut butter, the high fiber cereals, maybe the whole grain cereals, any sort of canned good, like canned beans, the dried fruits and nuts and seeds and stuff like that. But in the center, they do also have those highly processed foods like chips and crackers and stuff like that, right? So the center aisles, a lot of times where they have those not so fresh foods, and it's the peripheral or the sides where they have like the fresh produce, the fresh deli meats, the as right here, the bread, stuff like that is always a lot of times on the outside. So if you shop the outside of the grocery stores, where you will find the most fresh foods and thus the most nutritious foods. So a lot of times what I'll do is I start with the groceries. I start with like the fresh produce and stuff like that, and then work my way around the store and see what else I need. But if I know I need something in the center aisle, I will for sure go and get that. And I'm going off my list a lot of times, right? So I know exactly what I need and what I want, and I get in and I get out and try not to be distracted by all the different things that are out there and all the different tactics that they use. Let me see, anything else about this one? One more thing before we go on here is to look. So let's say if you're going through the center aisle, we want to look not only just at the eye level, but above and below, because a tactic that grocery stores use is they put the cheaper items either well below the eye level or above the eye level, so you won't as likely see them, and then thus won't as likely purchase them. So if you're looking below the eye level, there might be more cheaper items that you could find rather than just at eye level. So that's another little tip. All right, let's go on to the next one. So what we are doing, we do have a quick little survey, just takes a minute or two. We use this survey on the CalFresh Healthy Living team to continue with budgeting and stuff like that. continue getting our funding so we can do classes like these and provide this information to students. So it takes about a minute. You can scan the QR code, or we will add the link in the chat. The class option for today is single session, and the title is Shopping on a Budget. When you are done, please go ahead and type Health is Wealth in the chat box, so then we can kind of gauge where everyone's at with that. All right, let me make sure we get the link going.
And this is just the first evaluation. We're gonna have two. I think this is the one Emily was talking about a prize for. Is that right, Connor?
Yes. So, excuse me. So, Emily, do we have 2 prizes today? Is that right?
Well, I feel like I'm getting more generous as the day goes on. So I think we're gonna do, hang on, I cannot talk and type and chat. I'm the worst at the chat box. So excuse me for just not my forte. So in the chat box right now is the link to our
links in the chat box to get more information if you want to find out if you qualify, or if you do want to apply for CalFresh today, if you know they already are qualified. But for CalFresh, it's a long-term food assistance program that helps qualifying individuals basically get benefits every month on basically a debit card sort of thing called the EBT card. And you can use that at participating grocery stores and just get some food that way. Let me see. And so then connect with us. If you don't follow us, we are CFO Chico State on Instagram. Feel free to give us a follow. We do post a lot of food, nutrition, CalFresh, EBT, post-related content. We also do every now and then send out a sort of raffle or some event where we give away something, usually some sort of kitchen equipment. And so you can always follow us and find out more information about those different events.